What you're about to see is the single most egregious real-time example of electronic vote fraud maybe ever captured, and it occurred live on CNN. I would ask anyone watching this video to rip it, re-upload it, share it, tweet it, and email it. This is an interview between L. Todd Wood and voter fraud researcher Russell Ramsland.
What's happening in this clip is this is the live feed from Clarity Elections coming through the Associated Desk or Decision Desk HQ. So this is the live feed. You're seeing the database that Clarity has as it gets updated with votes. And right now, and this little ribbon at the bottom, this is generated by CNN. And they update this a second after they get the update from Clarity up here. So let's just look. Andy Beshear has 673,948 votes. That ties to what the ribbon from CNN says. Same thing with Matt Bevin, 662,235. 662,235. Now, you're going to see a flash update, and then I'm going to show you what you really missed. The update's coming. Boom, there it updates. And now here's this guy. Now let me show you what you missed. We're going to drag this back frame by frame. And so here we are before the update, and now I'm going to start walking you forward. Watch the gold. Here comes the update from Clarity. Boom. There it is. So now the update, Andy Beshear has 674,508 votes. And look down below, Andy Beshear had 673,948. They haven't had a chance to update the ribbon because this is in split seconds we're looking now. So Andy Beshear has just gained 560 votes. Let's look at Matt Bevin. He now has 661,675. But look down below. He did have 662,235. At the exact same second that Andy Beshear has gone up 560 votes, Matt Bevin has gone down 560 votes. This is vote switching in the computer. And by the way, between the 560 gain and 560 loss, you have just seen 25% of the loss amount of this race happen in front of your very eyes.
I want to ask you, just tell us the status of Hammer.
Well, it's still up and running, Steve. I'm sorry to say. Last night, one of the outlets, the DNC, for instance, has been using this tool, and it has not yet been taken down. Just for our listeners to refreshing them, that the Hammer is a surveillance tool, as you mentioned, that the Obama administration, 2 weeks after they took over, put it into another location and started using it politically against their enemies. And then they modified it with this software package that changes the votes. The software package, like on your iPhone, is called a scorecard. And the fact is, a scorecard is what they're going to try to change your vote. So it doesn't matter what the poll watchers are doing. That is another tool they're using with poll watchers and the bogus votes of dead people that they're mailing in.
So hang on.
Yeah.
Hang over a second, because I know Media Matters is in full meltdown right now. You were actually on a radio show the other day. On some guy's got a YouTube channel, a really good show. But and you talked about this in detail. Did they take it down? I understand they took down that broadcast. Is that correct?
That's correct. YouTube took it down this morning around 7:07. I found out yesterday was that they are planning on using the Hammer with the application scorecard to win the election. And they are going against the battleground states, which we all know what the battleground states are: Florida, Georgia, Texas, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, Nevada, and Arizona, according to our source. Scorecard steals the elections by tampering with the computers at the transfer points. I won't get into too much of the details, but where these transfer points come in, and they do it after human intervention has been, there's no more. They use a very highly skilled algorithm that the source created, and this was to be used in foreign countries and by the CIA. They converted it to the U.S. He keeps the vote percentage, the Democratic Party, about 3% ahead.
And Tom, the information you're presenting, the sources you obtained it from, you are very confident in their reliability and their background, correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's no question about it. We have corruption, again, at the highest levels of the Democratic Party. Just for our listeners, they used the hammer and scorecard system to defeat in the primaries and gave it their final operational test and evaluation in the Democratic parties. Otherwise, Bernie Sanders would have won the 2020 nomination. But they knew that they couldn't ever pass the American public a socialist communist. And so Joe Biden comes out and he wins just because they used the software. He didn't win actually. The software and the cyber warfare is what gave Biden the victory.
We did something interesting. We went and did FOIAs, and we asked for the participating voters, which means the number of voters who actually voted, which is this tan column, and the number of votes cast, which is the actual ballots. And what we found consistently in at least the 7 cities they gave us data, there are more votes than voters. Okay? So this was something illuminating. Then Phil Evans got involved, and Phil looked at the data of our votes. In Franklin County, for example, where we won, the only county where 70-80% of the votes are hand counted, we found out that as the number of votes proceed, you see that the votes, these lines represent our vote accounts. Mine is the red, and my opponent is a blue. You notice they flatten, and this is how curves should look over number of votes. They flatten. However, in all the other counties where the votes were machine counted, the votes do not converge. They have this parabolic effect. Right, Phil? And that parabolic effect, Phil, is one of the big indicators of something going on, voter issues or election fraud. Am I right, Phil?
Correct.
Yep. So that's what we're showing here. The conclusion of this, which we like to present up front, is that there are in the three major counties that were analyzed out of the 4, Trump's margin was reduced by a minimum of 138,000 votes. I'll repeat that. President Trump's margin was reduced by a minimum of 138,000 votes. So what that means is Trump's vote total was decreased by 69,000, and Biden's vote total was increased by 69,000. In short, 69,000 votes were transferred from Trump to Biden in these counties, and they varied across those counties, but a total of 69 counties. The other piece is this quote unquote transfer was done by a computer algorithm.
And that would push, and again, if you come at this from a Republican perspective, I did Joe Biden's math to get him up. Donald Trump's leading here. He's leading here. He's leading here. We expect him to win here. That's his. This one's interesting. We expect him to get this. And these normally would be Trump states out here. And Alaska. So, again, we're open to being surprised. But if it plays out in a traditional map, that's where we're going to be. That's where we'll be as we go to the West Coast, somewhere in that ballpark. This is not an exact science, but somewhere in that ballpark looking at.
Trump loses 19,958, but guess what? Biden gains those votes. Take a look at Biden. If this doesn't raise a red flag for the judiciaries of Pennsylvania, we know this happened in Nevada. There's other videos.
And there's a group of mathematicians and computer scientists, computer engineers working on this, and they have put out their initial analysis. And what you will see is that massive amounts of votes were changed from President Trump to Biden, as everyone has been suspecting. But further, other votes were removed altogether without reason. As with any analysis, it's important to check the work to ensure it has been completed properly without errors. There is more to do, but fortunately, people all over the world are working on this. And I have one report from an independent news site called No Q Report, and this is what they say. We are going through the data now, but everything we have combed through so far seems to check out.
The first one is turnout. Turnout was exceedingly high and in the places that Joe Biden needed it. Again, that defies logic. In Wisconsin, for example, statewide turnout was over 90%. To put that in context, the country of Australia, voting is mandatory. You get fined if you don't vote, and their turnout is only 92%. Within Wisconsin, Milwaukee was critical. Not surprisingly, that provided more than all, of the surplus for Biden in the state. He won Milwaukee by 145,000 votes. Turnout in Milwaukee was a stunning 84%. It's pretty hard to believe if you put it in comparison with another Midwestern city, similar demographics, similar size, Cleveland. Turnout was only 51%. Are we really to believe that Milwaukee naturally had turnout that much higher than Cleveland? It really strains credibility. It demands further investigation. The second point of my op-ed is outperformance versus Obama. It is really quite stunning how much Joe Biden outperformed Obama, but only in the places that mattered in battleground states. In other words, we did not see this on a national basis, this kind of outperformance that we saw in a place like Montgomery County, which is outside of Philadelphia in Pennsylvania, a key, mostly swing county that leans slightly blue. In 2012, Obama got 233,000 votes in Montgomery County. But look at what happened this year for Biden. He got 313,000 votes in Montgomery County. He more than doubled Obama's margin of victory in Montgomery County. And by the way, population growth does not account for this. The county only added 22,000 total residents between 2012 and 2020. Is it really possible that this lazy and doddering candidate, Joe Biden, was able to so massively outperform a politician with rock star appeal like Barack Obama? Point number 3, Biden-only ballots, meaning people who voted for Joe Biden but then did not vote down ticket, even in places that had hotly contested races. For example, Georgia. But first, let's look nationally. 450,000 Biden-only tickets. That is ballots. That is very, very suspicious. Let's look at the state of Georgia, the difference. President versus Senate. There are 2 Senate races going on in Georgia, so a lot of interest there. Trump, this is the differential. Trump versus the combined Republican Senate vote. The differential was only 818 votes. Absolutely minimal considering he got 2.4 million votes in total in Georgia. In other words, almost everyone who voted for Trump also voted down ticket, voted for the senators. Biden, though, a 95,000 vote differential. There were almost 96,000 people in Georgia, allegedly, who voted Biden only and then did not vote for Senate. That seems far too wide to be believable. And again, the statistical case, the circumstantial case, demands more investigation. Folks, my fourth point of the statistical case against Biden, laying out by the numbers, the improbability of the results as we are told to accept them right now. These results demand further investigation and audit in part because of this improbability. Let's consider my fourth point, which is the absence of actual vetting of mail-in vote. In states like Pennsylvania, where the governor changed the rules by himself, unilaterally, unconstitutionally and illegally decided election procedures, knowing full well that there would be such a mass of mailed-in ballots that there would be no way that election officials could properly vet the legality and validity of these votes. So what happened? In Pennsylvania, the rejection rate of mailed-in ballots was only 0.03%. Okay, now, that is 1/30th of the normal rate in the state of Pennsylvania. And mind you, for first-time voters, the typical failure rate is 3%, so 100 times higher than the rejection rate in Pennsylvania. New York, right next door, when they went to large-scale mail-in voting for their primary, they had a rejection rate of 21%. That is 700 times higher than what we saw in Pennsylvania. The point here is that very, very likely, many, perhaps thousands, tens of thousands of these ballots in Pennsylvania are not valid, are not legitimate, but they were not scrutinized. This is another statistical reason for us to seriously audit and review all of these results in these battleground states.
But I was watching Academic Agent's video. He just put this out today. Definitely recommend checking this out. Analyzing US election 2020 results and turnout data. He's highlighted some really interesting phenomena that we can see from the numbers, the official government numbers. To be brief, what he's showing here in the highlighted lines is the turnout difference in these states. Now, in Nevada and Ohio, this is actually down by 7.3% and 1%. And in Arizona, Florida, Michigan, they're up, but not by a huge amount. In Minnesota, 14.5% up. In Pennsylvania, 14.6% up. And in Wisconsin, 20% higher voter turnout than the previous elections, than in 2016. That's amazing. That's genuinely incredible, isn't it? Like, that is mass mobilization. Like, how many hundreds of thousands, nay, millions of votes extra? This must be where Biden got his extra 4 or 5 million votes from, right? I mean, where else is it going to have come from, if not for this huge increase? Like, staggering. It's staggering. We've already got a couple of red flags already. Massive voter turnout in certain Democrat-controlled areas. Right, okay, that's weird. Most votes ever. Okay, that's weird. And then we have another red flag, which is hundreds of thousands being reported all at once just for one candidate. Right, that's really weird. The statisticians have said this is like flipping a coin and getting heads 100 times. I guess Biden is just that lucky. I guess he's just so lucky. And it's nothing to do with the massive voter fraud organization he claims to have created. But finally, the BBC has given us this wonderful article. This was in 2016. Vote rigging. How to spot the telltale signs. Now, I respect the BBC. As a proud Englishman, I, of course, treat everything the BBC say as gospel. So, too many voters is the first one. Wow, that's really weird. You never get a 98% or 99% turnout in an honest election. You just don't. Yeah, that's really weird, isn't it? And so, I guess we can put under that the weirdly inflated voter turnout. That's just what a coincidence. That just happens to be the thing. There's just many more people voting than before. That's weird. High turnout in specific areas. Again, really weird, isn't it? Just really high turnout in these specific areas. Right, okay, that's, again, just check up on the thing. Large number of invalid votes. Oh, yeah, we've had that. Which one was it? Sorry, I've got so much here. There we go. Tens of thousands of votes are now in question, etc., etc. Yep, we've got large numbers of invalid votes. Results don't match. Well, we've had plenty of that, obviously. The dead people and the 6,000 votes that were, the glitch, and then you've got the clerical errors. So we've got lots of results that don't match, and then delay in announcing results. We still don't have the results. Like, what's going on? We're not going to get the results in, Nevada until the 12th. What? Why is there this delay in announcing results? Dunno, but luckily it was enough time for those extra ballots, the 100,000s of ballots that came in for Biden just turn up on the day. That's so coincidental.
Your thoughts first about the knowledge now that the Justice Department is involved in this review of the election.
Well, I'm delighted to hear that. I think there are any number of things they need to investigate, including the likelihood that 3% of the vote total was changed in the pre-election voting ballots that were collected digitally by using the Hammer program and a software program called Scorecard. That would have amounted to a massive change in the vote that would have gone across the country and explains a lot of what we're seeing. In addition, they ran an algorithm to calculate votes they might need to come up with for Mr. Biden in specific areas. I think that explains what happened in Michigan, where the computer glitch resulted in a change of votes of about 5,500 in favor of President Trump, just in one of 47 districts. All those districts need to be checked for that same, quote, software glitch, end quote, that would change the result in Michigan dramatically. The same thing is happening in other states. We've had hundreds of thousands of ballots mysteriously appear solely for Mr. Biden, which is statistically impossible as a matter of mathematics. It can all be documented. We are putting it into materials that we will file in federal court, and we need to seek relief in multiple states to enjoin the certification of any election results.
Well, Cindy, let's go back to Hammer and Scorecard. Are those the names that you just used for those programs? What's being done about it, and how broadly were they used by vote counters in various states?
I think they were very broadly used, but not by the vote counters. They were used by the forces in the Democratic operatives that had access to these programs through the government access points that they have, and used it illegally to change votes in this country. It's got to be investigated probably by the president's most trusted military intelligence officials who can get into the system and see what was done. But we do have some evidence that that is exactly what happened. And they've used it against other entities in other countries. It's just been turned recently against our own citizens here to change election results. It's absolutely appalling that that can be done. And whether it's called computer glitches or something else, somebody has actually gone into the system and changed voting results.
What can we do about it? Because the Department of Justice, I mean, if there's evidence of that program, why not just turn it over to the Justice Department and say, and go to the courts and say, this has got to stop now. Here is the way in which it was done.
Well, we've been trying to get their attention, and we're going to try even harder, and we'll have to put it in a federal lawsuit, apparently, and get as much of it out as we possibly can. We have some excellent witnesses on the issue. But this is coup 5.0, Lou. I mean, there was no reason to think that the Democratic operatives who spent hundreds of millions of dollars creating the Russia hoax, the Steele dossier, taking us through a special counsel operation for 2 years, trying an impeachment hoax, the apocalypse hoax, the obstruction hoax, wouldn't go so far as to create every means of voter fraud they could come up with to steal this election. That's exactly what happens. The president must fight back now in every way, shape, or form. We cannot let this republic be stolen by the Democratic operatives who want to destroy the republic and make it a socialist country where they continue to line their pockets with these backdoor global deals like the Biden laptop from hell exposes.